William Browder joins us now live from New York. He's an investment manager who Sergei Magnitsky worked for as a tax and legal advisor. He was tried in his absence and sentenced to 9 years in jail. First, could we please get your thoughts, your reaction to today's verdict?
I think that today is a very shameful day for Russia, that the fact that the first time in 1,000 years they would prosecute a dead man shows how desperate they are to try to discredit Sergei Magnitsky. And it's not just prosecuting a dead man, it's first killing him and then prosecuting him, which makes this such an abhorrent, immoral thing, which has shocked the world over.
You two have been found guilty of tax evasion. The Russian court says that you're guilty of evading $17 million in taxes. Do you continue to profess your innocence, and why did you choose not to appear in court?
Well, the entire process is an illegitimate, politically motivated prosecution. There was no tax evasion. It's easy for me to say, but what I can say is that this has been reviewed by Interpol, by the British government, by the German government, by the Dutch government, and many other institutions. Everybody has come to the same conclusion, that it's illegitimate, politically motivated, and it was just a trumped-up charge to try to discredit us and stop us from fighting for sanctions against the people who killed Sergei Magnitsky.
You've made serious allegations about corruption within the Russian government, but what evidence do you have?
We have all the evidence. We have documentary evidence that shows that money was stolen. $230 million was stolen from the Russian government by Russian officials. We have some of those officials actually receiving the money. Money has been frozen in various different countries. There are 6 different criminal investigations going on in Cyprus, Lithuania, Switzerland, etc. We have all the documents showing that the people falsely arrested Sergei Magnitsky. We have the documents showing that he was tortured, and we have the documents showing that he was beaten in the last hour of his life. This is not some case where we're making allegations without evidence. We have a huge amount of evidence, which is what was so convincing to the U.S. government when they decided to pass the Magnitsky Act. U.S. government's not going to just believe our allegations. They're going to do their own research, and they did their research, and they ended up passing the Magnitsky Act, and they put 16 people on the Treasury OFAC sanctions list as a result. This is a well-researched, completely documented case in which the Russian government is guilty of a huge crime and a huge murder, and the cover-up goes right up to the president of the country.
Now, in May, you said that you were Russia's a single biggest enemy. What did you mean by that?
Well, what happened was that when I was successful in lobbying the U.S. government to pass the Magnitsky Act, it was a major humiliation for Vladimir Putin. And Vladimir Putin is a very sort of insecure little man who reacts very badly to humiliation. And he made it clear very quickly after that at a press conference that I was one of his key targets. And from that point on, the Russian government has tried both judicial and extrajudicial things to try to go after me in any way they can.
Can you take us back and tell us how everything unfolded? How did you get involved in all this, and when did you bring Sergei Magnitsky on board?
Well, what happened was that I was a fund manager in Russia. I moved to Russia in 1996 and set up an investment fund, which quickly became the largest investment fund in Russia. I then started to discover corruption in the companies that I was investing in. And it was really big corruption in companies like Gazprom, the national gas company, and the national electricity company, and so on. And we decided to fight the corruption by exposing it through the international media, through the Financial Times, through New York Times, through Business Week, etc. And as a result of all this anti-corruption work, in 2005, I was expelled from the country and declared a threat to national security. Shortly thereafter, my offices were raided by the Interior Ministry of Moscow. 25 officers raided my office, and 25 more officers raided the office of my law firm. And they seized all of our documents. And then those documents were used by these corrupt law enforcement officials and corrupt other officials in stealing $230 million of taxes that we paid to the Russian government. I went out and hired the smartest lawyer I knew in Moscow, which was this young man, Sergei Magnitsky. He was 36 years old at the time, to help me investigate and stop this crime. Sergei investigated, figured out exactly who was involved, what their roles were, and what evidence there was for their roles. We filed criminal complaints against the authorities for doing this. And then shortly thereafter, Sergei testified against a number of officials. He testified in October of 2008, and about a month later, he was arrested by two subordinates of one of the officials he testified against. They put him in pretrial detention, they tortured him for 358 days, and then they killed him on November 16, 2009.
William Browder, thank you for speaking to us. William Browder is Sergei Magnitsky's former boss, who was also convicted of tax evasion by the Russian court in his absence.